Parents look at me differently when they see I'm a Black woman working with their child. A parent's requesting their children should be placed with someone who speaks English without accents.
Welcome to What We Learn, the podcast of the Equity in Education Canada Research Group at the University of Toronto. In this episode, we meet a PhD candidate interested in the early years of human development, specifically in people who can help children thrive during that foundational time of life.
My name is Calpanaa Jegatheeswaran. I'm a PhD candidate in the Developmental Psychology and Education program at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, which is a part of the University of Toronto.
It has been 5 years since the federal government created the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare program, which attempts to create a national childcare framework across the country. Many new childcare spaces have been physically created as a result of this legislation, but 5 years on, waitlists remain high because of a shortage of educators. The complex nuances of this legislation, its implications, and social effects is a focus for the Equity in Education Canada research teams. Calpanaa works on a team with Dr. Michael Perlin. They are currently working on a series of mixed methods studies about the experiences of early childhood educators to try and understand the reasons for these staffing shortages.
Research has shown that high-quality childcare can really support children's development all around. So I'm talking language, learning social skills, emotional development, and even physical development. At the same time, what we're finding is that the childcare sector has been facing major challenges. So there's been this growing difficulty to recruit and retain ECEs, and those challenges have become even worse after the pandemic. Many educators are immigrant and are people from racialized communities. But despite that diversity, we actually know very little about educators' experiences of racism, discrimination, and prejudice while working in childcare settings in Canada. And we know even less about how these experiences might affect their mental health, well-being, as well as their decision to stay in the profession.
The team developed a survey to explore workforce retention issues, including racism, discrimination, and prejudice, but also other issues such as mental health. With the help of the College of Early Childhood Educators in Ontario and the Association of Early Childhood Educators, the team was able to send their survey out to over 80,000 people in the sector. They received many responses, and 2,000 of those specifically related to racism, discrimination, and prejudice experiences.
So racism is where we see like a system that's giving power or advantage to some racial or ethnic groups over others. Discrimination, that's the unfair treatment of someone because of a group they belong to. So this could include race, but it can also include things like gender, their physical capabilities, things like that. And then prejudice, we can say, is a bit more, you're talking more about thoughts and implicit constructs. So it's like beliefs, assumptions, or feelings about a group of people that, aren't based on actual knowledge or experiences. We asked educators whether they had experienced racism, discrimination, or prejudice while providing care in childcare settings. And if they answered yes, they also had the option to describe those experiences in their own words. One of the biggest findings was that about 30% of educators reported experiencing racism, discrimination, or prejudice while they were working in the sector. Black and other racialized educators reported higher rates compared to white educators. Higher rates were also reported by educators who were born outside of Canada, educators who identified as non-heterosexual, as well as educators who were unmarried. Another important finding was that educators who reported higher levels of anxiety or depression, they were also more likely to report experiences of racism and discrimination.
Calpanaa and the team are also conducting a thematic analysis on the written responses to survey questions where educators described specific experiences of racism, discrimination, and prejudice in more detail. Thematic analysis is a research method that provides valuable human context to survey statistics.
So I did want to share some quotes. It always makes it that much more powerful to hear their exact words. So for instance, for cultural background, some quotes included, "Parents look at me differently when they see I'm a Black woman working with their child. A parent's requesting their children should be placed with someone who speaks English without accents. I was discriminated against with a false allegation because I am Muslim wearing a hijab." For ageism, we see both sides of it. For instance, like I was told I was too old, or because I'm younger, I found people don't respect my knowledge. Now, ableism, we saw both in terms of mental capabilities as well as physical. So, for instance, discrimination due to being an autistic educator. Another example is when I worked in daycare, I was bullied, teased constantly about my hearing loss. I want to also talk about sexuality. So, a lot of the times people would just write homophobia, um, as well as because I'm a queer educator and advocate, I've been called a groomer. For gender, some example quotes include, "A father refused to speak to me because I am a woman and demanded that I not speak to him." Going through this and, doing the thematic analysis, I learned so much, but at times it was also quite heavy to, hear this and read this and know that these educators who are already facing such, crises in the workplace are also dealing with this on top of it. It's very disheartening.
For Calpanaa, a key takeaway from this study is awareness. Awareness that racism, discrimination, and prejudice are happening within spaces that are supposed to be about establishing positive early experiences for children. Awareness of yet another employment sector in Canada where discrimination is present. And perhaps most importantly, Calpanaa hopes to raise awareness of the vital role that early childhood educators play in the lives of the families they serve and in society as a whole.
Society, we want to have this is like the foundation for children, having that strong early learning system. And we just need workplaces where educators feel safe, where they feel respected, and they feel supported.
Calpanaa is also interested in how families influence children's development. She has a new project focusing on the unique challenges faced by South Asian immigrant families in Canada. This project is more personal. It is inspired by her own upbringing and family experiences.
So my parents immigrated here when they were younger, and my brother and I were born and raised here. I'm South Asian, my parents are South Asian, but how we are South Asian looks quite different just because of how familiar we are with the Western world, how much we've acculturated. So more specifically, I'm talking to South Asian mothers of young children about culture, immigration, and growing up between different value systems and how that can shape their parenting. So talking about topics like, what parenting beliefs are you carrying forward now that you're raising your own children? And how do you sort of balance between collectivist South Asian values with more individualistic Western parenting expectations? South Asia is comprised of so many subcultures. It's not even just one country, it's so many countries. And within countries, there's so many subcultures. So I'm really trying to showcase that.
We look forward to speaking with Calpanaa again when she is ready to share the results of her research. Stay tuned for some upcoming episodes which will continue to highlight student research, and one that we are planning that will explain how the Equity in Education Research Group got started. Thank you for listening, and thanks to Calpanaa for sharing her research with us today.